So if I see a woman and she's always mad and always screw face, and I'm not talking about smiling at every man because I hate that conversation too, but being polite, being kind, it doesn't take anything from you. Black women act like that with other black women. So I know they're acting like that with black men. So I know that that's a factor as well. But I think it's, again, this is also another layered conversation, and we're trying to have them in very black and white ways, because there's a lot of factors that contribute to these things that we're discussing. But no, majority of men are not intimidated by women's success. Majority of men are turned off by successful women's attitudes.
Which is going to be on successful women's attitude. This will be our final segment before we go into our final thoughts and close out the show. We're gonna watch this clip, and again, it's from the sisters, and to provide context for those in the audience who may not be familiar, it was about this feeling or this notion that men are intimidated. Black men are intimidated by black women because of their success, because of their academic success, and or the fact that their career success. Let's hear what our sister had to say.
But I think it's two things. I think there are men who are intimidated, and I think that there are men who are just turned off by black women's attitude. Because if we're really honest, a lot of us are walking around with chips on our shoulders. And we are always ready to, and of course we could get into the factors as to why that is, but it doesn't change the reality, right? We could talk about why that is all day long, but it does not change the reality. So if I see a woman and she's always mad and always screw face, and I'm not talking about smiling at every man because I hate that conversation too, but being polite, being kind, it doesn't take anything from you. Black women act like that with other black women. So I know they're acting like that with black men. So I know that that's a factor as well. But I think it's, again, this is also another layered conversation, and we're trying to have them in very black and white ways, because there's a lot of factors that contribute to these things that we're discussing. But no, majority of men are not intimidated by women's success. Majority of men are turned off by successful women's attitudes.
What's there to add? What is there to add?
Yeah, and Sweets, I was coming to you with that, and I think she summed it up pretty eloquently. I just wanted to get to know what your thoughts were, and if you agree, or if you feel that with some of the sisters, man, maybe feeling themselves a little too much. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I most definitely agree with Hanifa. You know what I'm saying? I think it's more so the attitude that comes along with the success or the education that some of our women acquire. You know, I know we just had this still about talking about movies and stuff like that, but you listen to like Cardi B music, Megan Thee Stallion music. Those are the type of women who are telling you, and they all in your face with, I got this, I got the money, I got the body. You know what I'm saying? What? Nigga, shut up, don't talk to me. You can't say that to me unless I talk to you type shit. You know what I'm saying? In some of their music. And so I just think, just kind of bringing it back to, I guess, our, everyday, I guess, working women. Yeah, I just feel like a lot of them look at that. I mean, just think because they have acquired all this education and success, some of them, it does go to their head. Now, you're going to have some that's like, they can be cool with it, but I know of people who say they can't have a man that don't meet certain educational requirements. I know of women who say they can't have a man that don't meet certain monetary requirements. Mm-hmm. I think that's just what I know personally. So I don't know, man. I'm a roll with Hanifa. I don't really have a whole lot to add to what she said, but that's where I'm at on that.
Okay. Doc, when I asked this question, you had this I don't know, I don't want to say an evil grin, but you had something going on there. What were you thinking when I asked that question? What was on your mind when I asked that question? Are some of the sisters, Sweet Jones, or some of the sisters feeling themselves a little bit too much?
So I would have to say so. Yeah, I think that does play a part in the guy not necessarily wanting to deal with a woman, if we're talking about status and what she has. And some women do portray themselves or put themselves on a pedestal of I'm this, I'm that, I have this, I have that. And that can come out very demeaning to our men, right? Mm-hmm. So I do agree with that. But I think in this same clip is where I also shared my own personal experiences of what I've had and how I've encountered situations like that with guys I've dated or guys that, you know, it was like we're getting to know each other. And I also stated that in my own personal experience, it's like, you know, I had a conversation with Sweet Jones about this situation. And I think the word was when we were talking about the two pictures that you showed during that segment, we were talking about like, oh, he stated that I wouldn't have went with Halle Berry because I feel like she would have been out of my league. And I was like, maybe that's more along the lines of where, you know, it comes from. It's like, oh, that's where saying she's out of my league is also a form of intimidation.
Right. But it's not going to be about education and success.
Where you want to own up to it or not. So, but all of that's kind of lumped in some cases for some men. Like it's what she's got this, she's got that, she's this, she's that. She out of my league.
But what
that's
makes
intimidating?
But what makes you think that they don't want to deal with a woman like that because they feel like that they're intimidated? Look.
Well, I think part of the problem is you cut yourself short from really getting to know the individual, right? So like, there's no mistaking what I have. I've already shared that in the last segment. However, if you were to get to know me, you'll see like, I'm not one that's, oh, you got to call me this, you got to call me that, I'm this, I have this. I don't ever come off to anybody in that fashion. That's not who I am. But there are some people, there are some sisters who are out there like that. And I be giving them a side eye because I don't understand that. Like, you have to be humble in your accomplishments. I also know that I have no problem being a humble person because that's who I am. Mm-hmm. I may come off one way on this panel, but getting to know me outside of this foolishness, right? I'm a totally cool, down to earth person. That's who I am. But it can also, some people are not able to, some men, I'm not going to say people, in this case, we're talking about the Black man being intimidated or Black men feeling, you know, a certain way about a Black woman's accomplishment. I agree. If a woman is giving you attitude and she's been a full-on snob, then yeah, I can see why you wouldn't want to be with her. I can understand that. Because like, who wants to be with that if all you got to do is throw it up in their face about what you have, what you got? Don't nobody want to be with that. Nobody. Mm-hmm. But if you're coming in a sense of like, hey, I would like to just be viewed as Doc, just me, like who I am as a person without the titles, then that's another story.
Right.
And that should not be something, that's not something I find that should be an intimidation. It should be an asset, not a liability.
And I would say that depending on the woman, it is seen as asset. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to move on to Rico. I think the problem that brothers may have with some sisters who have their education and the careers, it's not so much that they're intimidated by the fact that you have more education. At the end of the day, we're Black people. And in America, most black women have always had more education than black men. The mother may have had a high school degree, and the father dropped out in the 4th grade, and he was working on fields as sharecroppers. Or in the 50s and 60s, you may have had somebody drop out to in the 10th grade to go work in the factories, and the mother had some education. That was never really a thing. That is more of this, I'm strong, independent woman, and they're like, with some of these sisters, they're really in your face. And I want to tell you, even though black men are somewhat braggadocious, right? Because we brag and we boast. We all do. We're just black people. That's what we do. But when it's someone in your inner circle, it's not acceptable. Like even amongst men, right? If you have a master's degree, you have a great job, it's cool. You have a master's degree, you have a PhD, just don't talk about it. Let somebody else talk about it. Let somebody else talk about how smart you are. You see, right. if you look at just take rappers, for example. The guys who get robbed, the guys who talk about how much money and how fly they are, when they go to the hood by themselves, guess what happens? They get robbed. The guys who brag about how tough they are and they just, guess what happens when they go to the hood? Somebody's always trying to check them, because black men hate braggarts. And a lot of black women tend to do it. Oh, sis, we get in the bag. We got this. We travel. It's a turnoff. It is. It really is a turnoff. And I will tell you this before I move on to Rico. Black men are not oblivious. We know how much education costs. And when, like I said, there was a month or two ago, I was listening to a young sister on, it was on Clubhouse, in one of the rooms in Clubhouse. And she led with her academic accomplishments. Yeah, I have 2 degrees and I have a degree in psychology. And all I heard was that she had 2 master's degrees, and I'm already calculating. I couldn't hear anything past how much money she owes. I was thinking she probably owed like $120,000, $130,000. And a lot of guys are processing information the very same way, because we are black. We know that you don't necessarily have the money to pay for all those degrees. You know that, hey, when you graduate from grad school, at least $60,000, $70,000 in student loans. You go for a PhD, add on another $70,000. So you already know, hey man, this person got $150,000 in student loan debt. And the thing with student loan debt, it's not like a mortgage. It's capitalized interest. It keeps going up and up and up. It's very hard to pay that thing. In my opinion, these student loans, man, are nothing more than modern day slavery. It's a scam to get people caught up in debt, and you end up being a wage slave. So okay, Rico, you might go ahead real quick, Sweet Jones. Let me go to Rico.
That got 15 seconds.
Okay.
15 seconds. I just wanted to clarify what Doc had said earlier. I was explaining to her what the point you was trying to get across with those 2 pictures last week. Mm-hmm. And she had a difference in opinion of how you should have presented it. And I was just explaining it to her. And just for the record, I said I would shoot my shot at the Halle Berry type. And she confirmed it. I just said that some people, would look at Halle and be, intimidated. That's how the conversation went.
Okay. Rico, what's going on with some of our sisters, man? I mean, do you feel like some sisters are developing some sort of superiority complex?
Absolutely.
AK, you so messy, guy.
Good question. I mean, it's a valid question, and it's valid because we see it. I think sisters, man, they like the new saxophonists or something like that, man, or the trumpeters. Everything they do, they gotta toot that horn. Everything. And it don't be having nothing to do with nothing. I don't know how many degrees. Look, man, I've known Abe for a really long time. I do not. I know he went to college. I do not know that brother's level of education. You know what I mean?
Just know he don't know it.
I would not be Abe's friend if every time we had a discussion or a disagreement, he was like, well, I feel like as a married man, a father of X amount of children. Look, bro, I don't even know how many children he had. Like, I got to sit back and start saying names to figure out how many children he had. I don't even, if every time I talk to Abe, he said as a married man, and the father of X amount of children, and a man in his late 40s, and a man with multiple degrees, a man who has had a successful job and a successful business. Like, brothers don't do that. When Abe asked me a question about electrical work, I don't say, oh, I feel like as a man who's done electrical work for 25 years and a person who's owned multiple homes. And that's what brothers got to sit and listen to when we just ask a woman, hey, you want iced tea or you want lemonade? You know, and it just be like simple conversations. Listen to all this whole horn section. And we don't want to go through that. We don't want to go through that. We know you got, you know, X amount of kids. We know you got your master's degree. You told us on the dating app. You know what I'm saying? We know that. All right. So you ain't got to keep validating yourself and somehow suggesting your experience outweighs our implied lack of experience. Because, you know, the man not going to counter and be like, oh, I got 15 degrees too. We're not going to do that. Also, I wanted to address that, like little things in conversations that make communication really difficult. When you start introducing words like crazy and stuff like that, it can make conversations a little difficult. I'm not going to say when they got introduced. People's feelings are people's feelings, and you know, probably just don't need to introduce stuff like that, because I'm sure the fellas agree that there's a lot of points that were attempted that we would kind of feel like we're bordering on, if not were absolutely ridiculous or crazy, but we just try to keep that out of the conversation. But yeah, you know, we just definitely are not intimidated by a woman's level of success. But we do know that women, when they're in the position of power, or they perceive themselves to be in a position of power, they can be very abusive when it comes to speech, and even whether or not you could feel secure with your you know, resting your head or anything like that. But just the speech alone is just really, really difficult with a quote unquote educated woman when they're going to keep reminding you of what they have achieved or accomplished or what they've been through. Because we all been through a lot too.
Right.
I don't know if that was clear, if that makes any kind of sense, because I was kind of rambling. But I'm just saying, we're not intimidated as much as we are irritated.
Q, can you understand where the brothers are coming from? Like, we love you, we love y'all, and we know that y'all are awesome, and we know that y'all are great, but nobody wants to have that thrown in their face all the time. You just don't. Can you see how that would be obnoxious? Because I go ahead. No, go ahead.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. I mean, as Sweet said, there, I don't really think I'm going to echo Hanifa. I mean, the times that I really, it is more so, I think the intimidation thing. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because I know that it does. But there's room for both sides of this argument, because I personally know people who they have achieved those things. And I have one family member in particular who I personally believe has on multiple occasions passed on good men that could have been our husband because of her mentality of what she thought was needed. And this was, you know, in our 20s, when it was like not understanding that you can build with someone, wanting them to be where she was. And you know, so I understand that those things do happen, but the other side does happen as well. You know, you do have men who, for whatever reason, they've made up in their mind that she's out of my league, and they won't even try. And they will assume that that woman those accomplishments are, that those things are her. And they don't have the ability to separate the woman from her accomplishments as it pertains to who she is as an actual person.
I don't know. Let me
and it is. And if you guys are saying that, well, really what it is, I forget which one of you guys said it, but maybe it was you that said, oh, you're automatically calculating. If she's got all these degrees, well, she's got all this debt.
Mm-hmm.
So are you intimidated by the debt? I was wondering.
Yeah,
like, okay,
let me answer that question. Let me answer that question. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
And, no,
I just want to know.
No, let me follow up. Let me follow up.
If that's the case, then can that be something that is said honestly? Look, baby girl, listen, you seem dope. I'm sure you are brilliant, but I check a couple of things. I check your attitude. I check if you can cook, and I check FICO scores, baby. And I ain't sure how yours gonna rock it. These are honest conversations then, because you're right. You can calculate how much a degree costs. Then don't make it about her accomplishments. Make it about, we old enough to start maybe thinking about marriage, and you got 100,000 K in debt. I don't want to take that on.
At that point, Q, let me push back a little bit. At that point, it's on the woman, okay? Because here's one thing about guys. If a man values a woman and he loves her spirit, he loves her, he will overlook that debt. He will overlook how many kids she had. Because there are a lot of guys that don't want to marry women with kids.
You just said that's fine. And I said, if that's the case, then have that conversation. But if you shut it down because you start computing debt,
no.
You're telling us there's something else, you know.
What I'm saying is that's what's in the back of his mind. And if you have somebody that you feel for 1 second you're going to have a problem with, or this person thinks that she knows everything, it's not worth it. It's not worth it for a lot of guys. I will tell you, I remember dealing with a girl who, because she had a college degree at the time and I didn't, you couldn't tell her anything. And there were things that she was absolutely wrong. Her favorite phrase was, "Don't tell me," and then would follow up, I got a degree from UCLA. And she even argued me one time. She said that Texas was bigger than Alaska. Now, fifth graders know that Texas is not bigger than Alaska. You can put Texas and Alaska like twice. But she was hiding behind her degree. And you couldn't tell her anything because she had a degree. And there are a lot of women like that. And I tend to think that it comes from a place of insecurity. And a lot of times, some of these girls who are raised without their fathers, right? They have this, Angela Carr Patterson called it was 4 archetypes. And one of the archetypes is the superwoman daughter. And they seek this validation, and they go on in life and they feel like, I don't need him, I'll show him, and they do everything by themselves. And they go on to adulthood with that same attitude. I don't need anybody. And they want to throw their success in the face, particularly in the face of men. And a lot of men don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. I'm reading a lot of women, they want to buy their own homes, and they want to have everything. You want to buy your own home and have all this debt, and then you expect a man to walk, a 6-figure guy to walk in and move into your house so he can pay your debt. That's not happening. Guys are not doing that. Because a guy knows
it's not their responsibility.
Well,
if you like, I went to school. Mm-hmm. I don't expect for nobody to deal with any debt I accumulated.
Oh my God!
That's why I said have the conversation.
I don't have that expectation of someone else to take on that responsibility for decisions I made prior to them. Why am I asking for you to take that to handle my debt? No, I'm not asking you to handle my debt.
Doc, it doesn't happen like that. And I'm telling you,
it doesn't happen like that.
It doesn't happen like that.
How does it happen, Ray? How does it happen, Ray?
It sounds good on paper, what you just said. But coming from a man that has dated women his whole life, when you enter into a woman's life, she's going to expect you to take on financial responsibility of X, Y, and Z. Whether it's straightforward or indirect, a lot of money will be coming out of your pocket. What you're saying, it sounds real good. And I've heard that many times. But once you get into a relationship with a woman, she's going to expect you to take that lead. She won't follow behind you on the submissive level, but she will expect you to take that traditional lead. But it sounds good, and I wish what you said was true, but it's absolutely not true. And a lot of times the women that have these debt, especially with student loan, they don't even have jobs and careers that will be able to support the debt that they are accumulating. They go into for ridiculous things like female studies. What did that pay? $10,000 a year? They go into careers like, it's nothing wrong with these careers, but they don't pay the bills like the debt that they have, like teaching. Teaching is a $35,000 coming out of school, $40,000. You're not making enough money to take care of this. And if you do pay them, you're gonna have to pay them for the rest of your life. And when you get married to a man, you get in a relationship with a man, in order for y'all to move forward, especially if he's a man that's an entrepreneur or a guy that has some sort of business about himself, all that affects his credit too. He's in it together. You're in trouble. You have to think of things on the financial level, but because you don't necessarily have to do that because you don't see it that way. But that's how men are calculated. Every time I hear of a woman, I'm going on a party, I'm going on a vacation, I'm going to do this, I'm turning up, I'm cooking, I'm going out all the time. What I hear is I'm going to have to take on that financial responsibility because I am the man and I have to take care of that. Just like if we have daughters and the daughter's hair is fucked up all the time, they're going to look at the mother and say, why is the kid's hair messed up? What's going on? They won't look at the father for that. But if the lights get cut off, they're not going to look at you. I don't care how many degrees you got. They're going to say, why is your lights cut off? This man can't take care of his business. That's how it's looked at. We have responsibilities that we naturally take on. And whether you like it or not, women are going to look at men and expect them to take care of things that they can't take care of on a financial level. It just sounds good, but it just doesn't work in real life.
Yeah. And well, Ray, I'm coming back to you. Who was that? Was that you, Sweet?
No, I said at all. I was agreeing with Ray.
Okay. Hey, Ray, I'm gonna come to you with this question, and then we're gonna go to Hanifa, and then we're gonna go to do our closing statements. But I think this is pretty much answered because it's just a variation of the same type of question, man. Do you think the sisters are letting the success go to their head, and is it hurting them? Is it hurting them or helping them?
In the long run, the things that we complain about, in the long run, it hurts women. If anybody is put in a better position for this, it's men. I mean, this whole movement as a whole has not done any justice to women. Maybe for the short term, it does do justice for you. But what happens in 25 years when you're not cute? What happens when you're in 30 more years when you're aging? What happens to you later on when there's no man around to take care of you? The most vulnerable person in the world is a single older woman. You can't get more vulnerable than that. But because you can't work, you definitely can't work enough to support yourself. And what do you have now? If there's no man around and you're 70 years old, what do you do then? Because in the short term, you can be strong and you can not need no man. You can be tough and I ain't gonna submit. You can do that for short term. But at some point, men are not going to be throwing themselves to get at you because you're going to get older. And then what? Then what do you got? Because all this does for men is force them to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to have sex with a bunch of women. Because at the end of the day, we can always go to that. I mean, it might sound juvenile, but we could just say, I'll have sex with them and that's it. I mean, I'll move on. It's plenty of women that come and go that have all these characteristics that we hate. But you know what we do with those women? We have sex with them. That's all. We have sex with them and we move forward. That's all. Because when a man is single, he saves more money. When a woman is single, she spends more money. Who do you think is going to benefit by being in a relationship more so? A woman is going to benefit more. So on the long term, what would you rather do? Get on a program, we get on each other's program and have matrimony and die together. So where you take it care of, or do you want to just be too strong for us and then later on have to depend on the government that won't be able to support you sooner or later? At some point, all these single women that was too strong with men, 30, 40 more years, it's going to be a surplus. So they're not going to be able to take care of all y'all. It's just not. It's not beneficial to women at all. It benefits men more because it makes us say, I'm going to be a bachelor. I ain't got to spend money because we don't spend a lot of money in relationships, like it or not. And it makes us just say, listen, man, we could just have a surplus of women. I mean, they're giving out free sex. That's what the whole movement started over, giving out free sex. I mean, we're getting what we want and we're not giving away anything we don't want to give away. It's a win-win for men. It's a lose for women in the long term. It's just hard for women to see things way down the street around the corner. They can't see what's going to happen in 20, 30, 40 more years. They can see hot girl summer now. Not that y'all say hot girl summer, I'm saying later on, we have to, as men, know how to look down the street and see around the corner and prepare for our financial future. Women just see what's happening right in front of them. I'm just gonna make enough money so I can go out for the weekend. I have to say, I'm gonna be 70 years old at some point and I won't be able to work anymore. I have to prepare myself. And that's what we do for women. When we love a woman, we prepare for you all to die without having to kill yourself. Our bodies are made to work hard. Y'all's are not. So either get on our level or we get on together, we get on each other level, or somebody's gonna die by themselves. And listen, nobody wants to be alone, men or women. But who's really better, worse off when they single by themselves? Old. Who's worse off? Is it men or is it women?
Right. Woo. That was you said a mouthful. Hanifa, go ahead and close us out, and then we'll head to closing remarks.
So just for this particular segment, I just wrote a few things. Men have to be more responsible about who they pick, and women have to be more responsible about how they prepare to be picked. Because the reality is, unless you are proposing to a man, men are the ones who are holding that access to marriage. Now, not everyone wants to be married, but if that is something that you're looking forward to, I think women need to do a better job at preparing for when that does happen. And getting an accounting degree doesn't necessarily prepare you to be a good wife to a person. You know what I'm saying? Acquiring certain levels of education. And this is why these things don't matter to men. I don't know how many times we have to hear men say this to us before we get it. Oh, you really don't care. And I think this goes back to what I said earlier. It's just a wiring difference. Men are just way simpler creatures. They don't really care about that. When I come into and this is men, when a man comes home, what type of environment awaits him? Is it a peaceful environment? How are you educating his children? What kind of mindset are you carrying? What type of mother are you going to be? Can he come to you and lay his burdens on your lap and you walk through them with him? Can he do that? Can you help him process a tough day? These, or do you feel he's doing too much? Or, these are things that, and I'm only speaking from a woman's perspective here. I don't even want to get into, the men. I'm speaking from woman's perspective. So we need to do a better job as women to prepare for when we are chosen, and men have to do a better job also of choosing. All of us, our mindset should be on expansion. So whenever we get coupled with someone, why are you being coupled with that person? Is it because she has a big ass? You know what I'm saying? Is that's it? Because big asses don't make good mothers, right? And neither do flat asses, right? It doesn't make you a bad mother or a good mother. Why are you with him? You know what I'm saying? Are you digmatized? Is it because how he get down in the bedroom? Is it because of how he spends on you? Because it requires more than that to build with an individual. It requires more than that to be a good father. These are things we have to do a better job at looking for in each other, so that when we do meet, if I'm preparing to be picked and you preparing, you're doing a better job at picking. When we come together, I'm talking fireworks, right? We become unstoppable, right? So I just think that a lot of us, we have to do a better job at, preparing and also choosing, because oh boy, we are setting poor examples for the generations to come. And when we talk about fixing ourselves collectively, I mean, what are the people behind us, our children, what are they inheriting? You know, what are you working on as an individual to change to make sure that that doesn't continue down your family line? Like, these are things that we have to think about. And then when we get together, these are things we're going to have to continue to work through as well. And the last thing I'm going to say, to Ray's point, there was this, I was processing this all week because there's a viral, I guess it's viral, Judge Taylor, I think it's her name. She was talking about being a pick-me. And I watched that clip, and then it was another clip that I saw where a young lady was talking about Viola Davis' story with her and her husband, and how when she met him, she was in bad, like serious debt, right? And she told him like she's jacked, okay? And he still was like, you know, I still want to be with you. The same thing what Ray's saying, you know, some men would look over it. He was one of them. And there's a very interesting conversation because the young lady was talking about struggle love. That's a whole nother conversation because I think that there's a race piece in there when Black women are with Black men who might be in between blessings. It's quickly labeled struggle love, right? But if they go and they get linked with maybe the divest, it's like, ooh, we must treat her well. All the while, and that's simply because of the color of the man's skin. Right. All the while, he could be whooping her ass. But all they see is that, oh, that's a white man, so that means he's treating her better, right? What was interesting to me is that they were talking about struggle love, and they specifically said, oh, Viola Davis' husband, you know, he's stuck with her and whatever. And I love that for her. You see how different that conversation sounds? When it is a man who is working with a woman while she is working on herself, it is applauded. It is applauded. While she's in progress and he's there sticking it out, it is applauded. But then when it's the other way around, everyone is appalled by it. We gotta be careful with the narratives that we are adapting. There's a lot of feminist, extreme feminist propaganda that a lot of our women have taken on, and we are regurgitating those same talking points, and we are perpetuating that same narrative over and over. There's nothing wrong with connecting with someone and you are working with them and they are working with you. There is nothing wrong with that. Our ancestors have always done that. This idea of, no, the man has to come already fully equipped and ready to take care of me, my expenses, my 5 children that don't belong to them, is ridiculous, okay? It's ridiculous. It's this thing that dehumanizes men. And as Black women, we gotta be very careful because we tend to dehumanize our men without realizing that's what they're doing. And the last thing I'm gonna say, Ray said something, he said, our bodies are made for hard work, right? That hurt my heart a little bit, Ray, because I understand what you're saying, but that is exactly how Black women treat Black men. And what I put down is, yes, your bodies are created for hard work, but your mind will completely destroy that same body. You could destroy your same body from the inside out if you don't have peace in your home because of stress. The suicide rate for Black men is extremely high and it's increasing. I mean, if we want to talk about these things, we could really talk about them. So when Black men reduce themselves to mules, to providers, and then Black women then treat them the same way. We have to change that narrative because yes, your body's made for hard work. I agree, but you are so much more than your body. And you deserve to be treated more than just your body that is meant for hard work. So I just wanted to address that.
Man, always.
I mean, I ain't got nothing to say, John.
Can we get a bomb sound effect?
Hey man,
we need a bomb sound effect.
We gonna have to definitely have to work on it.
She's a thug, man.
She's definitely a soldier. Hey, this was a good show. It was interesting,